Hello, everyone. I am super excited about having Emmanuel Kelly on with us today for Live Inspired. I met Emmanuel about 3 years ago, and he was one of the most inspirational people I've ever met. And so I'm going to bring him on into the studio. Hello.
Hi. How are you, Christina?
I am fantastic. How are you?
I am fantastic. Christina, you look hot. You look gorgeous. You look stunning. My God, with the blue hair and the gorgeous smile. Oh, I'm in heaven.
Well, you are a charmer, as always. Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question? Is this live on your Facebook?
It is live on my Facebook.
I'm gonna share it on mine if that's okay. Can I do that?
That'd be fabulous. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Okay, let's find you. Christina. Right, here we go. There it is. I'm gonna look at myself because it's cool, and I'm looking down. I can see myself. This is hilarious. Sorry. Okay, I'm sharing it to my page. Boom.
Well, rock on. Okay, so it's not every day I get to interview a rock star and then to have it shared on your page. I'm feeling pretty special. And just while you're doing that, Emmanuel Kelly is a rock star. He is performing with Chris Martin of Coldplay is one of his biggest mentors. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. Emmanuel Kelly wants to be he wants to inspire differently abled people that they can live their dreams. And this was the message that was so inspiring to me when I first met him. Mesmerizing voice, fabulous person to just be with, just makes you feel so good about yourself and really empowers others. I'm hearing a really weird sound. What's going on?
Here we go. I'm here. I'm back.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. Great. So I just wanted to share it to my crew so they can watch it as well. But yeah, no, I have lots going on.
Yes, you do.
You can. Do you want me to interview you? Is this what's happening?
Oh no.
I'm kidding. I'm teasing.
You got to keep making me look good. I mean, you came on, you tell me how hot I look.
You look stunning. I mean, you're gorgeous. You got a great voice, a great smile. I mean, the hair. I mean,
well, look, you got me all flustered and blushed out. So I want to ask you some questions. This is really about you. And I want to talk a little bit about your story and where you started, because this is one of the things that's just the most unique about you and that just really sets the stage for where you are now and what you've been able to achieve. So go ahead and start with that.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm originally from Iraq. I was found in a box on a battlefield in Iraq by some soldiers who were supposedly shooting at one another. And they heard a baby cry, and they went towards that baby. And in that box was me. And they took me to an orphanage where they left me with a little note that said, "This boy saved us, save him." I was then raised there in that orphanage for the next 7 years of my life, experiencing and seeing executions, gunshots, a whole package, right? And experiencing, honestly, some of the worst of mankind at times, wondering every day whether I was going to live or die. When I was in Iraq and living in Iraq, it was all about survival. There wasn't, even though the nuns had love for us, guaranteed, because they're holy people and they're taught pure love, right? And anyone that takes on a vow like that must have a lot of love inside them. It was still about survival. Growing up in this orphanage and seeing the things that we had to, that my brother and I had to see. Now, my brother isn't my biological brother. He's my brother. Someone who I met in the orphanage, and we quickly discovered that we were the only ones that were mentally abled in the orphanage. And so, we were raised in this orphanage just trying to survive every day and living our lives. And the one thing that kept us going every day, though, was hope. Eventually, you know, we'll talk more about what happened next, I suppose. But eventually I did come out to Australia, this incredible woman, Moira Kelly, humanitarian, who's saved the lives of thousands of children's lives to date. Heard about my brother and I. She came to Iraq, visited us. And I remember hearing 3 days before she arrived in the orphanage that there's this woman who's going to come and help us. And so I kind of sat on a window ledge waiting and waiting and waiting. And on the third day she arrived. And I remember thinking three things. And the story to her getting to us is a story in itself as well. Not for today. We don't have time for that. But I remember her arriving to the orphanage on the third day. And I remember looking outside that window and seeing this woman step out of the car, out of the taxi. And she kind of looks around. And I remember thinking three things. Number one, is she an angel? Right. She had kind of orange blonde hair at the time, and it was kind of shining against the Middle Eastern warm sun, and kind of reflecting off the desert and the buildings and things like that. And I remember thinking, is she an angel? Number two, can she and will she help us? Right. Number three, how on earth did this super incredibly white woman get in this country? I mean, she was white. I've never seen someone more white in my life, okay? Now, I'm tanned, okay? When I'm in the sun, though, and when I was in the Middle East, I was far more darker than what I am today, right? I've kind of lightened up. But I always say I got a permanent tan because all that happens with me is I just get darker and darker when I'm in the sun. And when it comes to winter, I become a vampire and start, you know, paling up a little bit. But you know, I remember, and so anyway, she came into the orphanage and she took us out, you know, spent some time with us. The next day she took us out for the day. I was 5 years old at the time. She took us out to, you know, the River of Babylon and took us out to the streets and Iraq. See, my brother and I, for those my brother had been in the orphanage for far longer than I had. He was in the orphanage for 7 years. He was 7 at the time. I was 5. Excuse me. When I was in that orphanage and when my brother and I were in that orphanage, we hadn't stepped outside the orphanage gates. Ever. We, you know, I'd stood against the fence and peeked, you know, through the fence, you know, the gaps of the fences that were created because there were broken fences and things like that. But I'd never, ever stepped outside the orphanage gate. And so all I had, my whole impression of the world was danger, war, execution, hatred, violence, okay? And a little bit of hope. That was my vision and my thought of what the world was. And so when she took us out and we smelt the fish on the streets and saw the carpets that were getting beaten up against, you know, shopping stores and buildings, and we saw, you know, different food, smelling the Middle Eastern spices and foods that were on the streets that were selling in the markets. We saw Iraq for the beauty and the gorgeousness and the love that it actually had. And we, you know, sure, there were a lot of inequality at the time when it came to women and men and things like that. But there was so much beauty. There was so much history. And it was just absolutely like stepping back into, I don't know, 1,000 years ago of Iraq with the gold coins on the streets. And I mean, it was stunning. Right? And so, you know, seeing that made my brother and I quickly realize that there's beauty here. This is not dangerous. This is not hatred or that sort of stuff. Even though survival was our basic instinct, there was none of that, which was really nice to have. And so, cut a very, very long story short, she brought us back to the orphanage. My brother asked her a really powerful question. He said, Auntie Moira, that's what we called her. Auntie Moira, can you help us? And Auntie Moira turns around and she says, I'll do my best, Ahmed. And my brother goes, okay, well, Auntie Moira, if you can't help Emmanuel and I, maybe just help Emmanuel and maybe come back for me another time, but just help Emmanuel. Now, any mother that hears that, right? Mum was, I suppose, a mother to the world of children, right? But any mother, yourself included, Christina, you're a mum, right? If one of your kids or your daughters or a child of that matter said that, your heart would just crumble. Any father as well would just crumble. So in that moment, mum realized, I can't just bring one of them. I have to bring both of them. I have to find a way. It took her 2 years. But in that moment, when I got told that story, got retold that story years later, I realized something really, really powerful. And this was kind of my first ever lesson. The only thing thicker than blood is love. It's the only thing that brings people together, holds people together. God creates separation, divorces, fights. It creates the best and also can sometimes create the worst of mankind, because it's the only thing that's driven by passion. And passion trumps everything. Passion and love trumps the relationship you might have with your brother or sister. And so I realized that and learned that. And when I learned that and realized that, things, my career and my life kind of changed in a big way as a teenager and as I got older. It's something that I always remembered and still till today. It's a strong trigger of what I do in my life.
That is super, super powerful, Emmanuel. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I want to ask you, what gave you hope? How did you learn to have the hope? Is that something that you were born with? Is it something that you got taught? With all the terrible things that happened and were around you, how did you still have hope?
I think hope comes in many different forms. You can either be taught it and guided by it, or you can. The thing with hope is it's not necessarily something that you can just say to someone, have hope, have hope. Hope it's more than a feeling. It's something that is already in our systems and in our bodies. Let me ask you a question on that, right? What's the reason you wake up every morning? My mum used to do this a lot. What's the reason you wake up every morning?
I wake up every morning because I want to live life. That's why I wake up. I want to live life.
But why do you want to live life?
Because I love life. Because
why do you love life?
I love life because of love and joy and beauty that I see and experience every single day.
Why do you have love and joy and all those things though? Wait, what?
It's a trick question, isn't it?
It is, because there's a trigger to all those things. And do you know what that trigger is? It's
hope.
Exactly. It's hope. It's the reason why you wake up every morning. You have hope that you're going to have love. You have hope that you're going to get whoever it is in the world, a message from a gorgeous, handsome, curly-haired brown guy, me. But in general, right? But you have hope that your career is going to jump that day. You have hope that your children are going to say, I love you. And thank you, Mum, for giving me and doing the things that you were doing for me, right? You have hope that whatever it is, right? You have hope that your husband doesn't pass, or you have hope that your brother and sister get through what they're getting through, or you have hope for all sorts of things in your life, right? Or if they're hurting and they're in pain, you have hope sometimes for them to pass gently and beautifully, right, to the next life. But you have hope. That's what drives every single person every single day. That's what triggers. So hope was just a part of our internal and emotional vocabulary, right? It was something that was just inside of us because we had it. When you live in a war zone, you see and experience life on a survival instinct way, hope just jumps up. Because not only do we have hope that we survive that day, but we also have hope that we can get out of this place, that we can create a life of our own, and that we can find love in our own lives. whatever that love looks like, a mother or a father, a brother or a sister, whatever it is, right? We have hope that the children in that orphanage will also be helped one day when we get helped, if we get helped.
Oh.
We have hope every single day, and that's the reason. So hope was just a part of my vocabulary as a child, as a 5-year-old. It was just, and it's a part of every child that grows up in a war zone like that. We forget how lucky we are in countries like America and Australia. The reality is, sure, lives over there are horrible, but there are also lives here that are bad. And no life is worse than another, and no life is better than another. Each life is unique and different in its own right, and in its own way.
Super powerful, super true. And that's one of the things that I've always really loved about you, Emmanuel, is you have so much wisdom. And I know you don't know exactly how old you are, but can you just tell us approximately how old you are and how old you were, or what year it was when you left Iraq?
I'm 27 this year in April. It's terrible. Getting old, guys. No, I'm young. No, and that's the cool thing. Age is just a number. It's a form of introduction and legality. Once those things are sorted and done for, then at the end of the day, I someone really actually wise said to me the other day. They asked me, "How young am I? How young am I?" Instead of "How old am I?" or how. What is my age? What is my age? Something like how, yeah, but it was something like, how young are you? Right. And that was the question, because the reality is you're as young as you feel, and you're as young as you choose to be. I mean, I know 70-year-olds who are freaking fitter and healthier than I am. I mean, it's ridiculous. Okay. So the reality is, age really is a number. And as technology advances and grows, I mean, there's people right now who I know who are literally have created the first serum to extend your life by 200 years.
Wow.
Before and in 30 years, they're so everyone that's watching, if you can live another 30 to 40 years, by then, okay, there will be a drug that will allow you to live forever. So if you want to live forever, you can live forever at that point. If you don't, then you don't have to. And at that point, when you take a pill like that, or a drug like that, or a serum like that, I mean, let's be real. Age, I mean, what? I'm going to say to someone, yeah, I'm 5,231 years old. That's what I am. Right? At that point, you lose track, I think.
One of the stories that we don't have time for now, but that I liked, was how you chose your birthday, because you don't actually know when you were born or even what year. It's just all combined.
I can tell that story. I can shorten that story. My mum, so my now mother, Moira Kelly, she's a funny woman. She chose the birthday because she felt that no one should that when we go to school and we have our birthday, she didn't want to make cupcakes for 30 kids in the school. She just wanted to make cupcakes for like 5 or 6 of my friends. So she chose a public holiday. So that way she doesn't have to make cupcakes for kids at school. So yeah.
I would love to meet your mother one day, your mom. She sounds like a very, very cool person.
She certainly is. She definitely is an extraordinary woman. I love her to bits. Yeah, she's awesome. She's definitely awesome.
So you had kind of a journey, because you are different labeled. You were born with some limbs that are different and some different abilities, and you had a journey. What was it like to learn to be okay with that part of yourself when we live in a world where everybody fears being like everyone else, but everybody wants to be unique and different? So how did that work for you, this journey of self-love?
It really kind of, for me, it really started big time after X Factor. That self-love really began after X Factor. I remember going on this show, X Factor. So I came out to Australia. And I had multiple surgeries, and I learned how to walk for the first time, and I had all this confidence up my sleeve. And then I went on a TV show, X Factor, and I did really well. It went viral, hundreds of millions of views worldwide, online. It was crazy, trended, the whole package. But then when you have that kind of fame that quickly, it kind of, it really makes you at times a different kind of person. So a lot of my insecurities started to come out, the insecurities I had from high school. I wanted to look a certain way for everyone. I wanted to be a certain thing for everyone. I wanted to act a certain way for everyone. Right? So it was certainly a journey for me at that point. I toured. I did all these amazing things in my life, but then something extraordinary happened. I went to go and get signed by management companies and record labels and things like that, and agencies, and I kept getting turned down by these companies. And so whilst experiencing this fake love, right, this admiration from everyone, which is, sure, it's beautiful and it's great and it's very loving, but it's not real. It's real to them, but it's not real to me, because as much as I know them and I care for them as well, my fans, and I care for them on a third level, like a third party level, I care for them, and I'm super appreciative of everything they do. I mean, they are incredible, right? Truly remarkable human beings. To support an artist, no matter what the look of that artist is, that's beautiful. But it's still not a true love. Okay? And so you're receiving that kind of love and admiration. You gain a godlike syndrome. Okay? And then what happens, and which is something that I also gained, I thought I was meant for this planet. God put me here and all this sort of stuff, right? I thought I was God's gift to earth at the time. And so you've got that happening. And then you'll go into record labels and management companies, and they're telling you, no, they're not going to sign you because you have a disability, or you look different, or I call it I'm differently abled, right? But they didn't know that. So they would say, you're different, you look different, your disability, we're not sure about that with our brand, and we don't know how to brand you, or because I've got an Iraqi background or a Middle Eastern background, I could be a great, I could be connected to terrorism or whatever sorts of things like that and I got these statements from these companies, and that's what I was getting turned down. But the biggest attack was my physicality, my appearance. When they attacked that, suddenly I've got all this happening over here. Amazing. We love you, all this sort of stuff. And then over here, we hate you. We don't like you. We don't want you. Boom, boom, boom. Right? It's crazy conflict happening in your head. You start getting in your head. You start thinking, oh, man, maybe they're wrong. No, maybe they're right. No. Oh. And you start believing what's been told to you. But naturally, our brains tend to believe the negative over the positives quicker because it's easier. So I started believing the negatives that were getting told to me. Before I knew it, I was on drugs, alcohol, on the side of a street, right? I slept in cars for a while. Not even my mum knew the situations that I had. And one day, if she's watching this, she does now, right? But I was experiencing these things. And I had an amazing person with me, Peter Mabry, who's my godfather. But then, at times he was gone home, and when he was gone home, I was doing my own thing, right? And so I was experiencing these horrible experiences and things, and I was driving myself to this self-hatred of myself. To one day I was so low in my life that I hated the person I saw in the mirror. And I remember looking at that mirror and I asked myself, Emmanuel, what happened to the kid in Iraq who knew how to survive? What happened to the boy who had balls and guts? What happened to the boy who loved himself? And I punched the mirror as hard as I could. And the next day, my friend who gave me his couch said, he gave me his couch. He said, thank goodness I'm a Jew and I've got money, man. Here's a new mirror. Please don't break this, right? And he hangs it up on the wall. And I look at myself and I walk up to the mirror and I look at myself again and I go, no, man, I'm not going to break this one. And he goes, why? I just look at myself. I go, Emmanuel, there you are. I found you. I got you. And from that day onwards, I started to embrace myself. I started to love myself. And I heard this line that was said years ago, something like, it's none of your business what anyone thinks of you. And it just ended there, right? So I thought I would add to that. And I added the fact that it's none of your business what anyone thinks of you. It's only your business what you think of yourself, Emmanuel. So what do you think of you, dude? I would ask myself that question. And every morning I'd say, I love you. That's what I would say. I love you, Emmanuel. I love you. I love me, right? And I keep saying that over and over, to eventually I actually learned to love myself. To eventually I embraced who I was. To eventually when I'd go on a date, I wasn't hiding because my confidence and what I had in me, that embracement of myself and that confidence in myself matched my, already knowing that I'm a handsome guy. So knowing that and then having that confidence and self-confidence, suddenly the dates that I was on they wouldn't notice what's going on. They would just be like, I'm attracted to this person, right? The companies that I went to, the agents, the managers, the things like that. Sure, I still got the discrimination, but it was far less because now I'm going in with this enormous amount of confidence saying, it's all right. I don't need you. You need more than I need you right now, right? So I kind of became the same person that was in Iraq that survived. Difference is I was that person and a person who not only was depending on survival, but also now had a bigger dependency, and that was the embracement of myself. Right? And because I had that, power and that strength, I was able to keep building and building and building. Within 6 months, I was on stage with David Foster, right? A legend in the industry, who's produced and created songs, My Heart Will Go On, and launched Michael Bublé and Celine Dion's careers, and helped launch Celine Dion's careers and people like that, right? So this guy was amazing. On top of that, and when he told me, which he did, he told me, Manuel, I don't think you'll ever make it in the industry. I'll be honest. The industry's not ready for you. Something like David Foster saying that to me, David. And the best part about it is I turned around to him and instead of saying, oh, really? Why? I said, watch me. Right? That was my response to him. And then 6 months after that, I'm on stage with Coldplay. And I remember standing right on the side stage just before I went on stage with Coldplay. I had my jacket on, and it was the pin. It was like the pinnacle of that shift, that change. It was the moment the change happened, right? I remember standing on the side stage. I didn't have my jacket on. Sorry, it wasn't that I had it. I didn't have my jacket on. I forgot my jacket backstage. And I remember asking my friend. I said to my mate, "Hey, bro, can you go and get me my jacket?" Right? And he goes, "I can't. We don't have any time." And he was filming. My mum didn't know I was there, but he was filming. And so I said, "Dude, I need my jacket." And he goes, "Emmanuel, no, there's no time. You're on in like 30 seconds." And it's like a kilometer down the road, or a kilometer, like the stadium's big, right? This is Etihad Stadium. It's like, 500 meters away, right? And I said, okay, so what am I going to do? And he goes, you're going to have to go on stage without the jacket. Or you got two choices. The way I see it, you got two choices. And he goes, and I said, what's the choices? And he goes, you either go on stage with Coldplay, or you go and get your jacket and miss going on stage with Coldplay. And for a second, I actually looked, and I'm like, and I considered actually going to get the jacket and not be on stage with Coldplay. And I'm thinking to myself, shh, And then I remembered that line that I kept using day after day that I used that morning. I said, Emmanuel, hang on a minute. What are you thinking? It's none of your business what anyone thinks about you. It's only your business what you think about yourself. So what do you think about yourself? How's that? And I said, I effing love me, right? And the backstage girl's like, sorry, what? I go, nothing, all good. She goes, what did he say? and my mate Alex Smith, I love him to bits. He just goes, it's just Emmanuel. It's his thing before he goes on stage. And she's like, all right, cool. Well, you're on stage now. I'm like, cool. So I went on, I did the performance, and throughout the entire performance, I kept saying, you know what? I love me. None of my business what you guys think of me. If you don't like me, bad luck. That was kind of the thing. If you don't like me, leave. Stop watching. Whatever it was, right? And I think that's the reality that we have to live in our society and in our world is we are living in a world where we're constantly judging one another over and over and over again. We're judging how people should love. We're judging if a younger guy dates an older woman, a younger girl dates an older guy. If a guy, if a guy wants to be with a certain someone in a certain way, if they want to be with another guy, a transsexual, whatever it is, right? If they want to do their business in a certain way, and that business is still profitable, whatever it is that they choose to do, as long as you don't physically, emotionally, and as long as you don't intentionally, physically, emotionally, or mentally hurt someone, that was the belief that I started living by and kind of motto I started living by. And you're all good. If you don't intentionally hurt someone emotionally, physically, or emotionally, physically, and mentally, then you're good. Now, if you accidentally hurt someone emotionally or mentally, then you gotta fix your shit, right? You gotta fix your stuff. You gotta fix your life, and you gotta fix. Excuse me for saying that word. You gotta fix your life, and you gotta fix where you're at, right? But the reality is, if you hurt someone physically, there's no excuse. You got some serious work and some serious self work that you need to work on. But everyone deserves that second chance, and you do too. Hell, it can be 10 chances as long as you eventually learn, but you can't just keep doing it and doing it and doing it. You got to keep improving and getting better and getting better and getting better. I mean, I'm now up to at least my 5th chance pursuing my career, right? But you know what? I'm getting further and further and further and further and further every single moment. And I'm learning from every mistake I'm making. And it's incredible, So that's kind of my mentality of how to live life. And that's a little bit of how I learned to really love myself.
That's an incredible story. And I think that what you shared is something that we can all, when we're at a low point or whatever, I think that you've been inspiring in just even talking about how you did it. Just looking at yourself and telling yourself that you loved yourself, knowing that it's nobody else's business. The only business that matters is what you think of you. And I just, for a little bit of context.
And I wanted to add just one more little thing, if that's all right. For those of you who are religious and spiritual and feel like the only person to love is God, ask yourself a question. God created humans in his or she or its own image. Okay. So if they've created that human being in its or she or in its image, right? Then by loving you yourself, aren't you just loving the creation of God and therefore in turn God itself? Okay. So for those of you who think religiously and beautiful, by the way, good on you. My mum always says there is, every religion represents something beautiful and good. But just think about that, right? By loving you, you're loving God as well in a big way. So I'm personally not religious, but I wanted to kind of put that out there to those who are and respect their beliefs and their ways, that, hey, you can still follow this model and still love the one person you feel and believe you should love and do love, and that's God.
For sure. Loving yourself. It's so incredibly powerful, and I'm so glad that you learned to love yourself, because you're making such a huge impact. And we don't have a lot of time left, but I just want to, because of what you experienced when you were going and you were discriminated against and people didn't want you for one reason or another, it's really put you on a path for one of your businesses.
It
And
has.
can you just talk a little bit about that, and then talk about the new release that's coming?
Yeah, so I have a release coming out in two. Wait, what are we on? What's the date today?
It's the 3rd.
It's the 3rd. So the 12th. We have it in 9 days. In 9 days, my song Red Love is coming out, which I'm super excited about. And then in 7 days, a huge article, exclusive. You can watch the video, the music video, which will be exclusively released on Variety magazine, so you can all watch it. It'll be an interview with Chris Martin and myself, which I'm really excited, on Variety. And that comes out in 7 days, so on the 9th or 10th, I believe the 9th or 10th. But just keep an eye out on my site.
We'll put the link. I'll put it on this. So
Perfect. So that comes out. And then the song comes out. It's called Red Love. I wrote it during that time where I was just crashing down. It's about finding love, wherever that may be, finding love either for yourself or finding love and regaining love from your partner, from your brother or your sister, whatever it is. But it's called Red Love. And it's finding passion again. It could be for your life. It could be for your career. It's whatever you relate to when you hear the song. So it's a really beautiful song. It's called Red Love. And so that comes out on the 12th. We have an amazing podcast that's starting up in March as well, where we're interviewing some incredible A-listers, which is awesome. And I have an amazing co-host that's going to be on that. I can't say who, but it's a she, and she's African American, and she's one of the biggest stars in the world, and she's a singer. So I can tell you that. A lot of things that you can try and guess from. We have a reality show that comes out later this year, following my journey. That comes out around June of this year. An album which comes out around June of this year, which also correlates with a one-man show which I'm doing. It's going to be directed by an amazing guy named Michael Mayer, who won a Tony for Spring Awakening, and he also did American Idiot, the Green Day musical. So he's directing mine, which is really awesome. It's a one-man show. And then my most exciting, amazing venture, and I'm doing some stuff in the modeling space as well, but my most exciting venture that I've just started is a management company and a record label that has 3 pillars. Pillar number 1, any artist who's been misconceived, misperceived, or misinterpreted within the entertainment world, who has experienced the entertainment world turning their back on them, and in turn their own fans sometimes. So we want to work with them. So we've got some really high-end clients that we're signing, which is really awesome. That pillar number 2 is artists who have been discriminated against in any way, shape, or form. And then probably our predominant pillar is artists who would never get a second look at. Entertainers, musicians, models, all that sort of stuff. So we got people that we're signing from like Albania with a disability. We've got artists that we're signing, a band that we're signing that are like from 3-4 different countries around the world with different heritages, right? Lead singer is an Indian guy, right? We've got, so really fully inclusive in that circumstance. We have a real push in empowerment and equality and inclusion. We have artists that we're signing from like South Africa, and myself, we're signing people with disabilities and different sectors of the inclusion world. So that's a really, really, really exciting venture that I have going on there. I have an amazing partner in that. I can't say who just yet, but we'll be announcing that in the next probably month on who that partner is, which is really, really awesome. and we'll be announcing the artists that we're signing as well, and working with, and artists and actors that we're working with. We'll be announcing that in the next month as well.
Wow. I mean, I just want to sum this up. So you've got a release coming, an album coming, a reality show, a one-man show, a management company, and I'm sure there's like 10
and a podcast. You forgot the podcast.
I mean,
all this year.
Emmanuel, what you are doing for the world, people of all abilities, all colors, all backgrounds, I love. Look, I'm getting emotional. I love what you're doing because there is enough love in this world for everyone, and you exude love. And I love that you have a sign behind you too that says,
absolutely. It's hashtag Pause and Love, and you can look up Love Button Global Movement. It's Chris Martin and this amazing guy, Dr. Habib Sadeghi, who actually introduced me to Chris and some of the people that I'm fortunate to be connected with these days. But yeah, Love Button Global Movement is the company. So look them up, search them, and check them out. And then you can also check out my nonprofit, which is Virtuoso. Yeah, check that out as well. We're supporting artists who need help, and underprivileged artists and entertainers within the art space. So we're providing grants, and we're going to be providing grants and things like that. And to do that, you can just go on to GVNG Giving, or you can just type in Virtuoso and Virtuoso Nonprofit, and you should find us on Instagram as well. So, yeah.
Awesome. Emmanuel, it has been an absolute honor and pleasure to talk to you today. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you, guys. Take it easy. Please keep an eye out. Follow me on Spotify and YouTube. Spotify is just Emmanuel Kelly or EK, but you'll find me if you just type in Emmanuel Kelly. YouTube is Emmanuel Kelly or EK. You'll find me, and then you can follow me on Instagram as well. And obviously, people are seeing this on Facebook, so you know where to find me on Facebook. But yeah, thank you, Christina. You're a gem.
Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Take it easy, guys. Big love.